And I am calling the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order today. Thank you all for joining us. I do detect a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started. Friendly reminder to all of our committee members, if you could please put up your yellow card so that the viewing audience will know that you are a part of this committee. And if you see your neighbor has a card up and they're not a part of the committee and their desk is vacant, maybe you could take that down for them. Pursuant to Section 8-44-112 of the Tennessee Code Annotated, time is reserved for public comment on legislative items appearing on this agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up on the council committee sign-up sheet posted outside the room where the committee is scheduled to meet. Public comment sign-up for council committee meetings will end immediately before the meeting begins. Public comment is limited to 8 minutes total at council committee meetings, and each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. And with that, we do have one person that is signed up today pursuant to Council Rule 28 and state law. Public comment is limited to matters that are about items on the agenda. You may only speak about items that appear on the agenda. And just for clarity, I know we voted to change Rule 28 the last meeting, but it takes 30 days to go into effect. So we're still going by the old version of Rule 28, everybody. So we do have one person signed up, and that is Mr. Steve Wrighton, who is speaking on RS 2024-459 in opposition. And Mr. Wrighton, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It's Ryder, just to clarify the record. The resolution I'm speaking about is 2024-459, which is $500,000 from American Rescue Plan money that's going to be used to DePaul, USA, which is going to be used for this Strobel permanent housing. It's for startup, property management, on-site support, and case management. It says in the legislation that the term of this grant agreement begins on May 28th, 2024, and extends for 4 months, or whenever funds are depleted, whichever comes first. My problem is that this is for 4 months. You need to have a sustainable funding plan before you open the Strobel Center. Charlie Strobel was a dear, dear friend of mine. And I think it's really inappropriate to open something which is not fully funded. I don't want to see Charlie Strobel's reputation tarnished in any way. So I'm asking the council to find a sustainable funding plan, get a local property management firm to go out there and open this facility. It's desperately needed, but a 4-month contract simply is something I cannot support. So I hope you can address that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Ryder, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name, and thank you so much for coming out to speak today. Colleagues, we do have a committee report from the Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee, and we did have that at the bottom of our agenda. We are going to go ahead and move that up. So I would like to invite Councilwoman Allen up to the front, as well as the 2 other speakers from that committee. If you all could please come up and join us. And Councilwoman, whenever you get settled, you are recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. While I'm being joined by other members of the committee, I want to thank all the people who supported this committee. Oh, my goodness, and we have Henry here. This is great. So this is a committee that was formed based on comments that we frequently got as the council in the last term was voting on tax abatements or tax incentives, hence the very long name of the committee. Just pointing out that as a city, we do not have a formalized policy on when we have allocated more than enough of our potential revenue as a city to items that tax abatements are frequently used for. So the purpose of this group was to look at what abatements have been used in the past and how effective or not effective they have been and what that process has been, and then to make recommendations to the body. So I want to first of all thank the members who served faithfully on that, and that includes Councilmember Quante Toombs and former Economic Community and Development Director LaTanya Channel, seated to my right, Attorney Charles Robert Bone, Affordable Housing Consultant Mick Nelson, and our junior member Henry, who has faithfully come to some meetings and performed very well, developer Fiona Halter, and real estate broker Angel Sims, who is to my left. And we were joined by a number of experts in the field, including representatives from Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority, MDHA, National Department of Transportation, the Metro Trustee's Office, and many of these people who support us are also here today and hope can answer questions if needed. The Affordable Housing Division of Metro Planning and local attorneys representing entities who have utilized tax abatement tools in the past, as well as Dr. Kyle Weedberg from the Government Officials Finance Association, who provided some great context in terms of what other cities around the country are doing. So with that, I'm just going to very quickly give the council members who are here a very brief primer on tax abatements that are already out there. We did a study in the last term on tax increment financing, and so this group did not deal with that. What we looked at are pilots, payments in lieu of taxes primarily, as well as some other tools that I will work my way through. So the pilots are issued by two different groups. First, MDHA, Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority, issues pilots, which means they are one of very few entities that the state government allows not to pay the assessed property taxes. There's a very limited amount of organizations that are not subject to very fixed tax appraisals and assessments that are put together by our property assessor. And so MDHA can work with a development. Those have been used for the past several years for affordable housing projects using federal money called low-income housing tax credits, which in many situations work very well to make it possible to build housing for which rents can be charged that are affordable to people with lower incomes. Unfortunately, in the state of Tennessee, those credits are taxed, and that makes the entire project not work. And so we created a payment in lieu of tax program, which has been very successful, initiated by MDHA, and that has been part of the creation of thousands of units of affordable housing. So that's one type of pilot. The second is issued by the Industrial Development Board, and the Health and Education Facilities Board has a new tool that we've created called a mixed income pilot, which again creates an ability for a project to pay lower property taxes than they would otherwise if they will set aside a certain percentage of their property to be used for affordable housing. That's a new tool. We have 2 rounds. The first one has gone all the way through, and those projects are now being built. Only one has been completed, but it seems to be an effective tool, and we're excited that that one is actually happening. So those are the 2 main pilots that are being used for affordable housing. And then the Industrial Development Board also can issue pilots for typical types of projects. One of our council members, Councilmember Quinn Evans Siegel, has served on that board and can probably tell you a whole lot more about that than I can. But that is another entity that can issue those. In the past, we have used most of our tax abatements for economic development and to bring jobs to Nashville. And what we've discovered in the last 10 or 15 years is bringing those jobs has put us in the situation of then needing other things like affordable housing, childcare, and grocery stores. And so we are now working towards using those tools for other items. And that is what a large part of the time that was spent by this group was just trying to formalize the recommendations that we'd make to ensure that that happened. A few other types of tax abatements that I would touch on very briefly are the historic property tax abatement, which has not been used a lot, but it is an important piece of the Second Avenue historic restoration after the bombing, and also the low-income property tax freeze, which is administered by our trustee's office, authorized by state law, which again is just a way to enable people to stay in their homes, and for that we forego property taxes that otherwise would become part of our revenue. But as a city, we think that's an important thing to do. Also, we have a transit-oriented development authorization. We have yet to use that in this city, but hopefully with the new transit referendum, we will figure out how that will work. And also will be a way to use property tax abatements to encourage important things to happen around transit, like affordable housing and perhaps also small business support and things like that. So with that being said, we looked at how we have used those in the past, and several observations were made by the committee. The biggest was it is a little bit confusing if you're not an expert on this in terms of finding out how to access that. So one of our key recommendations was just to work on increasing transparency and just the ability to understand where to find all the information about these. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over, who goes first? Okay, first I'm going to turn it over to LaTanya Channel to talk a little bit about how we recommend sort of or at least collecting the information for that in a single spot, so that if someone is looking to access that, they at least know where the starting point is and then can access the other places.
Good afternoon, everyone. And since I'm no longer in the mayor's office, I made sure to type out my comments because I'm unable to say anything. So anyway, first, all the committee members and personally myself, we want to thank Councilmember Berkeley Allen for her work, not only in setting up this committee, but moving the needle to get Metro actionable recommendations that serve all the residents and all types of businesses in Metro on issues that matter to all of us, whether it's true affordable housing, high-paying quality jobs, investment in neglected areas of town and infrastructure, whether it's transit infrastructure, neighborhood infrastructure, or even green infrastructure, investing in our parks. All of which, if Metro is intentional, can scale and support our local, small, and minority businesses with affordable small business space, can create and support true workforce development, meeting the needs of Metro residents, can create lasting, affordable, and accessible housing, and ultimately to make sure that Nashville takes care of Nashville, where those of us here and already here can feel the improvements and not want to be leaved or displaced out. But for you, creating this urgency, honestly, we would not be here today making the recommendations on the tools we already have at our disposal to make Nashville better. We can't blame the state for what we can do and the tools that we can use. We also must acknowledge the work of former Councilmember Bob Mendez, now the Chief Development Officer in the Mayor's Office, on his old website. I'm not sure if it's old or still existing. But because for an average resident, or even above average resident, who knows Metro Nashville well, there were few places where anyone was talking about these deals except for that prior TIF report that Councilmember Allen, and you still would have to know to go look for it. We also want to thank, as committee members, Councilmember Toombs for keeping us all focused on these issues, not just for the areas that she represents, for all the city. So this is supposed to be 1 minute, so let me go faster. So I joined the committee under Mayor Cooper. My title then was a kind of a wonky title, and my efforts were to focus on small business and minority business growth. But somehow, applications for bonds and TIF deals and requests for payments from job grants from HCA, Phillips, and AllianceBernstein landed on my desk. That's another story for another day that speaks to how Nashville handles and sustains these deals, not a comment on any one mayor. But for Josh Thomas and Metro Legal helping to figure out why these deals were on my desk and what I was to do with it, and but for Mendez's website, where he informed the public about TIFs, abatements, and pilots, I was baffled. And but for Finance's excellent job of checking those numbers for those jobs grants, in particular with HCA, Phillips, AllianceBernstein, and the like, where they get $500 per job after they bring the jobs here, we, Metro, did not and still do not have a staff looking at those metrics and making sure for future deals, actual metrics are in place over time. We in Metro were not measuring the impact of these deals from times past. We weren't tracing the benefits to Metro as a whole. But most important, it was simply hard to find any one place where the written deals were housed to even know if our city should have benefited or should still be benefiting from those deals. I ended up calling Josh and Metro Legal quite a bit. Yet still, some of our large corporations and developers and the like want to be good corporate citizens, but we Metro either didn't ask a lot and definitely didn't traffic. So again, when I joined the committee then, I'm now working at the Urban League to hopefully continue the work that this committee has started. So again, thank you, Councilmember Allen. So in 1 minute, let me just sum up the recommendations, and after me, Angel Sims is going to talk about recommendation 1, which is a database that is recommended in the report for tracking these deals to make sure we see what Metro is measuring to ensure that all of Metro benefits what these ensure that all of Metro benefits from what the abatements and incentives provide. When Angel talks about the database, one thing I also just want to add to it, as mentioned in a recent article where Councilmember Allen was quoted, we must conduct regular reviews of these incentives that we offer. Otherwise, we'll continue to have the same exact outcomes as noted in the recent released community needs assessment that was done by Metro Social Services that talks about growth does not reduce disparities. And we know that this administration and this council is very, very interested in reducing disparities. And these deals are a mechanism in helping with that, in making our corporations true corporate citizens with us. So the first recommendation, Angel's going to go over about the database and transparency. Recommendation number 2 is convening a mutual benefit committee to periodically update the city's priorities and review the use of all the incentive programs against specific performance measures. As noted in the report, council would have to reauthorize programs, as Berkeley Alley mentioned in a recent news article, and that the purpose for reviewing the effectiveness of these programs, the purpose is to review the effectiveness of these programs on a regular basis. How do we actually know that we succeed if we only actually measure the growth and actually review them? The third recommendation is to continue the trend of utilizing the tax incentive programs for addressing specific community issues, whether we're talking about housing affordability, child care, small and minority business support, where we have grocery stores, that the private sector can provide, and many want to, again, be good corporate citizens to work with us to create. We simply need to ask them and then negotiate. The fourth recommendation is renewing the cooperation agreement between Metro and MDHA to continue the LIHTC. I'm sorry.
Check that, we did it.
Okay, great. Done, check, done. And then the fifth is utilizing the state-enabled option that she already mentioned, TIS for transit-oriented development. That's it. I think I'm done. And I'll just leave you with this. But for Nashville not planning to ensure all the residents get the benefit and growth and ensuring we're aligned with the creation and implementation of these deals and monitoring and tracking these deals, we are where we are today. In the words of Dr. Kyle Wedberg, who came to our committee on February 28th, I highly encourage you to watch that particular meeting where he talked about best practices from around the state. As he said, we can live differently tomorrow to positively impact all residents over the next 20 years as our fellow committee member sits there with his child over there. All these decisions we get made for his son. So, Angel, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. I am Angel Sims, broker of suburban and urban real estate services. And I'm here this evening to just give you a little insight on our database. So transparency was discussed, and we thought it was very important to find a way to be more transparent. So our suggestion is a tax incentive transparency database. The trustee's office, Ms. Erica Gilmore, graciously agreed to house this database, so we would really like to thank her. I would like to also thank you, Berkeley. You have been wonderful, and it was wonderful working with you all. Our database will consist of some key components. The components will be a comparative data collection, comprehensive data collection, mapping and visual tools, a performance matrix and evaluation, transparency and engagement. And I'll just give you a little bit of information about those. It will be a centralized website that will further foster diversity and inclusion. For many years, these valuable tools and assistance have been utilized only by the informed and the chosen. So we feel that once this database is established, everyone will have access to the ability for creation of affordable housing, city infrastructure, economic development, addressing city growth, and then everyone would have the opportunity to see exactly how these funds are being used. That was one of the main things that we wanted to make sure we focused on, which was the maintenance, administration, and use of the funds. The comprehensive data collection will be a collection of information and data, including from different government agencies. The mapping and visual will be a tool that will be used so that hopefully when it's created, you'll have the opportunity to just click on the location of whatever the development is and you'll be able to see that. The benefits for this will enable stakeholders to access the impact of tax incentives on economic development, job creations, revenue generations. It'll foster accountability, which is major amongst program recipients and policymakers. It'll also provide decision-making. So once the different individuals or organizations want to go in and start thinking about how tax abatement and incentives will work for them, that information will be there for them to be able to look at and do a comparison. It will also empower our citizens to actively now participate, even discuss, and be a part of the decision-making process. It'll also enhance further economic development, because once it becomes transparent, more people will know that this particular tool is available and these tools are available for them, and hopefully it will impact our economic growth for our city. And lastly, it will serve as a valuable tool for promoting transparency, accountability, informed decision-making in tax abatement, TIF, pilot programs. It will facilitate a comprehensive and up-to-date information. It will be empowering and impactful, and will lead to a more equitable and efficient economy development strategies for our city.
Thank you. So to wrap that up, I should have pointed out, the council members have a copy of this study on your desk. If you start at the back, actually, there's a great summary of all the tax incentives that we have given year by year that sort of shows that we've begun to use this tool more and more, and that's part of the question that we're asking, is how do we know when we are doing enough or too much? And that's part of what this mutual benefits committee that we would convene on an annual basis would look at, based on conversations with Metro Finance, Metro Legal, representatives from each of these bodies, and members of the community that would also be involved in this, and just provide a metric to look at and say, we've never thought about, we just kind of do these on a one-off basis, looking at it comprehensively. Smart, do we need to be more formal in policy? So the next steps that the council will do will be to put together an ordinance that I will welcome input on that from any other experts on that will formalize the creation of this community, the creation of the database that we've heard about, and some standardization of language between different tools, so that it's not a totally new animal every time you start with a different agency. So I thank again all the people that helped make this possible. I hope that y'all will look through this report and ask questions of any of the people who helped contribute to it. But I did not acknowledge Metro Finance and Metro Legal, who also faithfully attended those meetings, as well as the council office. So I apologize for that oversight earlier, because they were tremendous help on all that. So we are not done. The report is finished, but that's just the beginning of putting some pieces into place that we believe will help Metro to use this, this tool that we have to incentivize things that are important to us and help make Nashville a better place. So with that, I don't believe that I will be asking for questions, because we need to move on, but we will certainly be around after the rest of the budget committee if people want to come ask things. So thanks again to the committee, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to present this.
Thank you all so much for that information. And colleagues, if you do have questions, you can also submit those to Director Darby, who can get them to the committee. And I did forget to share that the ordinance that created this committee required the report to be presented to council. So while you do have, you previously already had a copy of the report, the ordinance did require that presentation. So in addition to the written report, we got the oral report today. And again, thank y'all so much. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to our agenda today. Colleagues, we have the following items on our consent agenda: RS 2024-446, RS 2024-447, RS 2024-448, RS 2024-449, RS 2024-452, RS 2024-453, RS 2024-454, RS 2024-456, RS 2024-457, RS 2024-458, RS 2024-460, RS 2024-461, RS 2024-462, RS 2024-463, RS 2024-464, RS 2024-465, RS 2024-466, RS 2024-469, RS 2024-470, RS 2024-471, BL 2024-354, and BL 2024-355. Do we have any items that anyone would like to bump from the consent agenda? This is a Christmas miracle. All right. Seeing none, let me go ahead and read those. RS 2026-446 Porterfield amends resolution RS 2023-2166 to correct an error concerning the description of the required cash match and updated end date of Amendment 1 to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to establish and enforce federal and state mandated child support programs guidelines for children born out of wedlock. RS 2024-447 Porterfield Welsh approves Amendment 2 to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to establish and enforce federal and state mandated child support program guidelines for children born out of wedlock. RS 2024-448 Porterfield Welsh and Coopin approves Amendment 3 to the Parental Assistance Court grants from the Tennessee Department of Human Services to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to provide opportunities for and meet the needs of eligible low-income families who have a court-ordered child support obligation and to increase program participant parenting time with their child. RS 2024-449 Coopin Porterfield Gamble approves Amendment 1 to a lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government and Nashville Garage LP for office space at 350 Dedrick Streets. RS 2024-452 Porterfield appropriates to certain accounts for the benefit of the Davidson County Sheriff's Office, Nashville Farmers Market, and Nashville Department of Transportation Parking Management Program Fund and GSD debt service in the amount of $12,293,700. RS 2024-453 Porterfield appropriates $30,675 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216 to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee as fiscal agent for the Metropolitan Historical Commission Foundation for the creation of 2 national sites drive-in tours for North Nashville. RS 2024-454 Taylor, Porterfield, Welsh, and Allen appropriates $80,000 in the American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund 30216 to Jefferson Street Sound Museum for upkeep, marketing, community outreach expansion, and music education. RS 2024-456 Coopin Porterfield Gamble approves the 10th Amendment to the lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government and Square Investment Holdings, LLC for office space in the Washington Square building located at 222 2nd Avenue North. RS 2024-457 Porterfield Evans accepts the Homeland Security Grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Office of Emergency Management to implement state homeland security strategies by addressing the identified planning, equipment, training, and exercise needs required to prevent, respond to, and recover from acts of terrorism. RS 2024-458 Porterfield Evans Welsh approves Amendment 1 to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Children's Services to the Office of Family Safety to support the provision of services to families who have experienced domestic violence and child abuse neglect. RS 2024-460 South Porterfield Welsh approves a grant contract between the Metropolitan Government and Celebrate Nashville, a 501c3 organization to provide cultural event management services. RS 2024-461 South Porterfield Welsh Allen accepts an in-kind grant from the Friends of Warner Park to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund the purchase and installation of Metropolitan Historical Commission historical marker on the grounds of 1811 House in Percy Warner Park. RS 2024-462 Capstyle, Porterfield, and others accepts an in-kind grant from the Friends of Shelby Park and Bottoms to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to improve and expand the nature play area in Shelby Bottoms, including the construction of a new pavilion. RS 2024-463 Webb Porterfield Parker approves an interlocal agreement between the City of Goodlettsville and the Metropolitan Government through NDOT authorizing Goodlettsville to operate and maintain traffic signalization equipment at the intersection of South Main Street and Rivergate Parkway in Goodlettsville. RS 2024-464 Porterfield Parker approves a sole source contract between the Metropolitan Government and Transportation Control System, Inc. to provide McCain traffic and pedestrian hardware at a 35% discount off manufacturer's suggested retail price. RS 2024-465 Gamble Porterfield Parker approves an intergovernmental agreement between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and NDOT for the maintenance of traffic control devices in connection with TDOT's roadway improvements project on Old Hickory Boulevard from Brick Church Pike to Dickerson Pike. RS 2024-466 Porterfield Parker Welsh Allen approves the application for the Congestion Relief Program grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to NDOT to fund downtown Nashville adaptive signals and transportation demand management project, which aims to make greater strides towards alleviating congestion, increasing mobility, and supporting transit operations in downtown Nashville. RS 2024-469 Porterfield Parker approves a contract between the Metropolitan Government and Ford Hall Company Incorporated for the provision of Werewolf Werewolf Parts, Products, and Services, RS 2024-470, Coupon Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker, approves the participation agreement between the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services and Ellison Hospitality, LLC, to provide improved public sanitary sewer service through the construction of an improved stormwater project. RS 2024-471, Eastlick Porterfield, Gamble, Parker, approves the participation agreement between the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services and 18 Properties, LLC, to provide sanitary sewer services improvements, for the 18 proposed development as well as other existing properties in the area. Bills on second reading, BL 2024-354, Porterfield, Parker, Wilsh, approves the term extension of contract 408246 between the Metropolitan Government and Reynolds Construction, LLC, for the biosolids facility digester design and build product. And BL 2024-355, Porterfield, Parker, grants the purchasing agent the authority to extend the contract number 459172 between the Metropolitan Department of Water, Sewage Services, and CDM Smith. Can I get a motion? Did you want to pull something, Councilmember Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
You are recognized.
RS 2024-448 and 460.
448 and 460. All right, 448 and 460 are both off consent. Did anyone have anything else they want to pull off of consent? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Anyone not voting? Motion carries, and I believe we have 11 members here now. If you could check Director Darby. 13 now, okay. 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, the first item not on the consent agenda, RS 2024-397, Porterfield Evans Taylor accepts the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for executive search and direct permanent placement services for the Metropolitan Action Commission. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This was deferred last time because we had asked for like a range of what the cost would end up looking like. And so I think that's the information that we'd be looking for today.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here that can present that information, either from MAC or from Finance? And we have someone coming in the back. If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Benita Davis, Director of Administrative Services and Operation for Metropolitan Action Commission. We have not engaged for a range from them, but we have budgeted up to $50,000. Those funds will be coming from the Kresge Foundation funding to the agency.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Evans. Do you have a follow-up question?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Evans. Councilwoman Sawyer, you recognize?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to provide more clarification. I did talk to Director Krum, and I think it's important for us to note that the way this cooperative agreement actually works, they're actually not doing any contract with them yet. This is just to say it's okay for them to talk to them. And so that's what we are approving. The second thing that she also stressed to me, which is what Ms. Bonita said, is that the funding for the executive search would not be coming from Metro funds, would actually be paid by Kresge. So I am in support and I vote in approval.
Thank you, Council Lady Sawyer. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next item not on the consent agenda is item number 4, RS 2024-448, Porterfield Washington Coupon, approves Amendment 3 to a parental assistance court grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to provide opportunities for and meet the needs of eligible low-income families who have a court-ordered child support obligation and to increase program participant parents in time with their children. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pulled this off just so I could ask some questions. This sounds like a really great program, and I was just wondering if anybody speaks to results so far and what the metrics are.
And did appears as though we
got
have
the
someone
judge.
coming.
All right.
We have the Honorable Judge Sheila Calloway with us. Judge Calloway, you are recognized and welcome to the meeting today.
Thank you. Thank you all for having us here. I do have with me our team lead of our parenting division, Mr. Michael Wade, who could maybe give you some more in-depth numbers, as well as Mr. Jim Swack, who is our deputy for grants and finance, and as well as Jennifer Wade, our court administrator, sorry. We have been working with the PAC program for several years now. Since I have been the judge, we've had the Parental Assistant Court program. Their main objective is to, for all of those cases that come through for unmarried parents, is to provide whatever barriers that they can to support the parent, to support the child. They start their work in our clerk's office. And so if the clerk has a call or a person that's coming in to file a petition, they go and there's 6 of them in our unit, and they have a day where they are the clerk support. And so they'll go down and help the clerk's office or help the person who is filing something to figure out exactly what they are trying to file and to figure out exactly if they're in the right court and how they can help them. Beyond that, they staff our parentage dockets, our appearance dockets on every Wednesday, where we have all the parents for the first appearance. They are all trained, Rule 31 trained mediators, and so they do parenting plans on those days. If they cannot mediate a parenting plan, then it goes in front of one of the magistrates or me for a final resolution of a trial. So it actually helps people get parenting plans a lot sooner than they could a actual trial date. And then they have a parental assistance court, and our 3 court dockets, Magistrate Ottman, Magistrate Kane, and Magistrate Rosenberg, where there are cases where a person who may get behind on paying child support, they work with that parent on trying to alleviate whatever barriers it is for them to pay their support. If it's that they can't get their license, we have a partnership with the Public Defender's Office to help them to go to General Sessions Court to do what they can to get records expunged, to work with Child Support Services to get license back, and whatever it is it's keeping them from gainful employment, they work with their clients in order to do that. We've had a lot of success. I did not bring actual numbers with me today, but we have had a lot of success. A lot of parents who have become more active in their child's life because of our PAC program, and a lot of parents who have been caught up on their child support as well.
Councilmember Allen, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, that's great. That's the information I was looking for.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstaining. Next item is item number 6, RS 2024-450. Porterville authorizes the issuance of not to exceed $149 million in aggregate principal amounts of interfund tax anticipation notes of the metropolitan government. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, which I'm very surprised about. Ms. Wiggins, can you explain what this is? Because I would love for us to get that. Would love for us to get that on the record. So, Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Thank you. The tax anticipation notes are where we are actually borrowing cash from the Metro Water Department in the time frame from the beginning of the year until when we really receive our cash flow from property tax payments. So those property tax payments start to really come in October. So that July through October timeframe for debt service, we need to borrow money. We're able to borrow it from ourselves, actually our partner at Water.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. You don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you don't know to ask a question. So the teacher in me likes to get those things on the record, at least the first time that we see it during the council term, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So do we have any additional questions? Council Lady Allen?
Thank you. I'll just ask the one question that I got answered over the weekend, which I appreciated, which was, if we're borrowing this money from Water, does that slow them down from building all the water things that they're building?
Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Thank you. It does not. They have enough cash flow to sustain their operations also.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any additional questions? Council Lady Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question about how we pay the money back. Is it paid back in one lump sum once we receive, or how is it paid back to water?
It's paid back in 2 installments.
Thank you so much. Do we have any additional questions? Councilmember Cortez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. To the Finance Department, are we paying an interest rate on this? Do we know what that rate is?
Yes, we do pay interest on it, and we have, it's kind of equal to, it's an interest and a fee for MIP. So if you're familiar, we have an MIP account charge, and that incorporates a lot of our treasury expenses along with interest. We pay the same rate that we would pay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cortez. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or not voting? Motion carries 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item is RS 2024-451 Porterfield appropriates the amount of $31,815,000 from the General Fund Reserve Fund for the purchase of equipment and building repairs for various departments of the metropolitan government. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Council Lady Soror, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is to the Sheriff Department. Thank you, sir. When we were looking at the FY25 budget in the Sheriff's request, there's an 8.5 million request for this year, and the breakdown of that 8.5 says it will be for salaries, but it's also for repairs and maintenance. So when I see this request in the 4%, it appears it said it's for creation of a fund. That's my understanding. Does that mean that this is just to put aside as we need it? Do we think we will use all of it in FY25? Or what is the intent and how much of it are we going to use?
If you could introduce yourself, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'm John Hudson, Chief Deputy Sheriff's Office. I have here with me our Chief of Corrections, Ruby Joyner, and we have our Director of Finance, Pete Lutz, and Deputy Director, Christy Bratcher. Yes, that will be used throughout the year. This year, we anticipate using about $3.5 to $4 million of 4% for needed repairs, emergency repairs throughout our organization, throughout our facilities.
So the 3.5, is that added to the 8.5? I'm just trying to see, and the reason why it's important is I want to make sure that we're not just setting aside money that we're not using when we have department that could use funds. So when I see this as a creation of a fund, I want to see if you've accessed, is this something that you'll be using throughout, or is this something that in case of an emergency, we would like to have this?
Yes, we will use that throughout. In past years, we've used that amount and more than that amount. So these are our necessary emergency type repairs that we will absolutely use that won't be sitting around left over.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council Lady Soror. Do we have any additional questions? Councilwoman Soror?
Yes, not for Sheriff, thank you.
You're dismissed. Thank you.
For the police department.
Chief Gilder, come on down.
You're the next contestant.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you being here. In your request, there's a 800,000 that just says equipment without any details. Can you please tell us what that is for?
Sure. And first of all, as someone who grew up watching Price is Right, I will say that was not as exciting as I always envisioned it would be. But nonetheless, I'm up here.
I could have gave him more energy, Chief. I got you next time.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so that's that $850,000 or $825,000 that you see on the 4% request is for replacement body armor and for replacement ballistic helmets. Those are only rated for a certain period of time because obviously they get wet, we sweat in them, and the material degrades over time. And so we have to, in order for them to maintain their ballistic integrity, they have to be replaced periodically. And these are going to replace ones that are expiring.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
I have a follow-up. How often is periodically, like how often does it have to be replaced?
So soft body armor is 5 years. And then these helmets are actually ones that we required in 2016. So we're going on 8 years now for those.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item not on our consent agenda is item number 11, RS 2024-455. Stiles, Porterfield, Gamble, and Welsh approves 3 option agreements authorizing the purchase of properties for a new elementary school in Antioch, Tennessee. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just thinking about our presentation last week from Director Hubbard around Metro-owned property. So I'm just assuming, based on this request, that there's not a suitable, like, already owned Metro-owned property somewhere kind of in the vicinity that would serve this purpose. I wanted to confirm.
That is an excellent question. Do we have anyone that may be able to, would that be general services or someone from finance? We do have a representative from MNPS, and we will give them an opportunity to answer that question.
Thank you, Chair. David Brom, Director of Government Relations for MNPS. Council Member Evans, I'm going to have to look in to see the process that we had to go through to cite that property. I know probably it was probably based on the fact that we're trying to build a school that's going to house about 800 kids, and so there may be limited amounts of property. But I'll ask our folks how we cited that and worked in conjunction to look for potentially property that was already under Metro control. And I'll get back to you with that before tomorrow.
Thank you so very much. And we will acknowledge finance also.
Thank you, Chair. I did also ask the same question of Metro Public Property to ask, is there not other Metro land that would be available? And for the size of the school that they need and for all of the, obviously the surrounding area, there wasn't land currently available to meet that location also. That would have to be close enough for where the need was.
Thank you. Councilor Evans?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. And I guess the only other thing I think about is like the kind of the context last week around the different departments that had different land. And so you're confirming that there's nothing even that another division held that would meet that need. Thank you.
And for anyone who may be watching, we got a head nod yes to the answer. So thank you. Councilwoman Sroy, you recognize.
Thank you, Chair. As we're getting the answers, and I guess we'll get it later, I would like to know the process for determining the offer for each property, because as I was looking at it, it's a process that I really would like to understand as we're looking at it. So just something for finance, or whoever can tell us what that process look like. Oh.
So to be clear, the question is, what is the process to determine how much we're offering for land?
Yes, because they all seems to be in the same area. And when I look at what people pay and what the fair market value is. There's so much discrepancy. And the area that I'm looking at is in equity and the people that own the land. What I see doesn't look right now. If somebody accepts it, they accept it, but it just look somehow to me. And I would really like to understand the process.
Thank you, Councilmember Sora. Do we have anyone from either schools or finance that would like to answer that question?
I believe that that's negotiated through Metro government. They actually do the negotiations. But again, I can follow up with our property people to see kind of how those prices are determined and how that market's value is done. Usually, when we do anything, we do an independent study of a market. For instance, when we do leases or things of that nature. And I would assume, but I'll go and confirm that we do the similar sort of thing based on the property that we're looking to buy.
Council Lady Sora, do you have a follow-up? Council Lady Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. That just reminded me of another question that I had. So and I guess going to Mr. Brom, on the property that is looking to be acquired, there's a plan to build a school. It's not acquire, and then in 25 years, we're going to build a school there, right?
No, I mean, there will be a plan once the property is purchased. Then we'll probably there'll be a rezoning that we'll have to go talk about, that'll go through an ordinance that we'll talk about till that happen, and then that process will begin. So it'll be a very open-ended process. Right now, we essentially know we've got this much property. The building would roughly be about this size, but from a point of view of what that design actually is, we're still very far away from that. But this isn't going to happen 20 years from now. The need is there in Antioch that we have those seats that need to be filled.
Sure. And I guess the last question that I have, I promise, is that does this mean, like, does this particular project, like, how does it flow up to kind of the prioritization for schools in Antioch? Like, you're acquiring, and then you'll go through that rezoning and conversation with the community and that kind of thing. And then, like, how does that end up then landing kind of in the list of potential school needs around the Antioch area?
If I follow you correctly, once the plan and design phase is in place, correct, and we know what the size of school is going to be, then we're going to start to look at where, from a point of view of our planning, where those students are going to come from. But they will come from that area. So there could potentially, and this will probably happen about 2 years from now when we're closer to the school opening up, what would happen then is we would look at the needs from those individual elementary schools in the Antioch and Cane Ridge cluster and in the area where the school is and make that determination. But again, that's all going to be open and transparent as we do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any other questions? I have a question, Mr. Brom. Seeing how there were some questions that, I know Councilwoman Swear had a question that wasn't able to be answered. I believe there was another question on the floor that wasn't able to be answered. Would a 1 meeting deferral hurt this if there was a deferral to get those questions answered prior to the committee voting on it?
I would leave that to the committee. I would be glad to try to get that done before council tomorrow and try to get you all as comfortable as possible. But again, I think I'll defer to the will of the committee.
Okay, thank you. Well, seeing no motions, the motion on the floor right now is a motion for an approval, to approve the legislation. If there is any competing motion that anyone would like to make, they are welcome to. Councilwoman Sawyer, you're recognized.
Yes, I'll move for a 1 meeting deferral.
It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Vice Chair Toombs, would you like to be recognized?
Do we know if there's a contract for sale?
So we have an option to purchase that the school board has approved the option to purchase, and now council is through this resolution allowing us to execute on those options to purchase those 3 pieces of property.
When does the option expire?
I can find that out for you. I can find that out for you.
I would just be concerned that if it was deferred and that option is going to expire soon, then the ability to purchase is off the table. I think that we could always do a deferral tomorrow on the floor, but I would like to get that information as to when the option expires so that MNPS has the ability to purchase this property if we approve the purchase.
Thank you, Councilor Toombs, Councilwoman Swerve, and then Councilman Allen, did you want to be recognized? Okay, and then Councilmember Evans Siegel, did you have your hand up to be recognized? Okay, Councilor Swerve, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to put out there that part of the conversation on this side of the table is that there's a possibility that this will be withdrawn and made into an ordinance. So because we couldn't get a specific answer is one of the reasons why I decided to do the deferral instead. So just to put that out.
Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thanks. I think I also would support deferring this tomorrow if we need to, or withdrawing it tomorrow if we need to. But I do worry a lot about if we have an option when that expires. If we put them on notice that we're going to exercise our option, then that's a totally different clock that's ticking that we probably also need to worry about.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans Siegel. Do we have any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, the motion on the floor, Councilmember Kemper, you recognized?
I just wanted clarification. Again, the last thing Council Lady Suarez said regarding you spoke to that side of the room and what? I didn't.
Councilmember Suarez, you recognized?
Thank you. So what I said was that this resolution will likely be withdrawn and made into an ordinance instead. And so that was the reason for moving for the deferral. But at this point, I will withdraw my deferral motion and wait until tomorrow to see what we have an answer, and then we'll go from there.
Motion withdrawn. The motion on the floor is now to approve. Thank you. Thank you, Council Lady Allen. It has been moved and properly seconded. Any additional discussion on the approval of this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Abstention, Council Lady? Okay. All right. We have motion approved. We have 12 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. All right, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is RS 2024-459, Porterfield Evans Walsh Allen appropriates a total of $500,000 from the Metropolitan Office of Homeless Services to DePaul USA for the provision of startup property management, on-site support, and case management services at the Strobel Permanent Supportive Housing Residence. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilmember Huffman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, there we go. You knew my questions were coming. Thank you, sir. Just a couple of questions. In public comment, Mr. Ryder highlighted the length of the contract, and that was a point that I was definitely going to ask about. So let's start there. Is the initial contract meant to be a trial period with DePaul, or could you just give a little history with that?
And if you could please introduce yourself, sir. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. I'm Bill Clendenning. I'm the grants coordinator for OHS, or Office of Homeless Services. And that's a great question. It's meant to be just a startup, 4-month startup, while more significant long-term funding is put in place. It came to the plate of the Office of Homeless Services. The facility is ready to go online, beginning in June. So we wanted to do what we could to make sure that happened. There are 2 long-term sustainable revenue sources that have been identified and through a competitive process and are being vetted right now.
And just a quick question, it's probably maybe more pertinent for tomorrow's committee, but DePaul USA, could you speak a little bit in regards to their experience with assisting the chronically homeless? Because as I understand it, the Strobel Permanent Supportive Center will be about half chronically homeless. Is that right?
That's correct. And I don't, I was not involved in the national search that identified DePaul, but I do know they have a long history and they have a lot of different other properties that are very similar, so they do have experience.
Thank you. And I think my last question is for finance, and it's just in regards to the amount of applicants that we had for this management contract. Is this the only one, or do we know?
My understanding was that there was, for the DePaul, initially there was an RFP that was conducted by MDHA. There was one applicant. I happened to sit on the review panel. And unfortunately, they did not have the capacity for a project of this size. So then a national search was conducted. There were three identified through that process, and DePaul was chosen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Huffman. Next, we have Councilwoman Allen, followed by Councilwoman Evans, and then Councilwoman Sorora. Councilwoman Allen, you're recognized.
I think I just wanted to hear that we have a long-term plan, and maybe there's a little bit more information about what those two long-term sustainable payment options are. That would be helpful.
I'm going to let our admin, Assistant Director of Finance and Admin, Joe Marsh, speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh, you're recognized.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so we are in the competitive process of figuring out who the revenue is. Right now, since we're still doing vetting, we're not going to disclose exactly who that is.
Councilwoman Allen, do you have any follow-ups? Thank you so much. Councilwoman Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. What is the anticipated opening date of the Strobel Center? And do we, I guess my question, bigger picture question is really, are we going to agree to go down this path and have this 4-month agreement? And if there's any potential challenges with kind of the longer term plan, is there the potential that we move people in and then we don't have anything beyond that to be able to sustain it? And I guess I kind of am curious also too, as a follow-up to the administration, is there a backup if we cannot get it figured out with the Office of Homeless Services, how to make sure that the center is funded appropriately?
Thank you, and we will acknowledge Ms. Wiggins with the Finance Office.
Thank you, Chair. On the June 4th agenda, you will see a resolution that will actually be bringing a reallocation of some ARPA funds. Last Wednesday, our COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee heard from the Office of Homeless Services along with planning. So there were some ARPA funds that were allocated and have already been appropriated and approved to the planning department for some low-income housing. They didn't end up using all of those funds, and we are going to be asking council to approve 4.4 million of those funds to fund the Strobel Center for the entire fiscal year of 25. They may not need all of that 4.4, but that is the plan, that when these longer term revenue streams start coming in, that will alleviate the need for those funds. But there's going to be potentially a gap before those long-term revenue streams start coming in, that we wanted to make sure that funding was there. So you don't have that yet. It will be filed for the next June 4th council meeting, and you'll see that 4.4 coming through as a request for that funding.
I think that actually takes care of my question, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sora, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think that takes care of half of my question too. But the other half is actually with the management itself, because when I look at the contract with DePaul, it's not just, they're also the one collecting the revenue. They're also the one in charge of repairs. And so they're actually doing the management of the facility itself. So my question is, do we have a plan in terms of how we're going to run it? Are we hiring people? And what happens after the 4 months?
So they've already hired a property manager and a director of services. They're looking to partner with a property management company for the first few parts of it so that they can kind of scale up, and they'll have somebody to kind of back them while they do the supportive services.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item not on consent is item number 16, RS 2024-460. Styles Porterfield Welsh approves a grant contract between the Metropolitan Government and Celebrate Nashville, a 501c3 organization to provide cultural event management services. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can I just get someone to talk about what events these will be for?
Do we have anyone that is able to answer that question? Do we have anyone from? Is there anyone here from Parks? I see Councilwoman Soror. We're going to see if we have anyone employed by the city that could answer it first. All right, Councilwoman Soror, you want to take a stab at it?
I don't work for Parks or the administration, but I've had the opportunity to attend for the last 3 years, and last time I was there with Mayor O'Connor. This is an event that actually celebrates all the cultural groups in Nashville. It's usually at the Centennial Park with food trucks, and you have all the ethnic group comes in and do the dancing and showcase Nashville and the multicultural place that it is. And so it's been a very successful event. It's always packed, and that's how much I know about it. And I don't know if that answers your question, but it's hosted by Celebrate Nashville. It's a non-for-profit that actually put it together, but it's done in conjunction with the Parks Department.
Councilor Allen, you're
Thank
recognized.
you, Madam Chair. I just don't remember seeing this before, so has it been funded this way in the past, and is it coming out of the Parks budget?
If we have somebody from finance that can, or the administration that can answer that.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Brown, Deputy Finance Director here in the Finance Department. I believe this contract had been previously funded through a sole source procurement in the past, but since it's a 501c3 nonprofit, it's been determined that a grant contract will be more appropriate.
Okay, so we're just changing from a different type of contract. Same organization that's been doing that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. We're down to the last two items, y'all. So thank y'all for hanging in there. RS 2024-468, Porterfield Parker directs the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewage Services to make additional payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries, 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. And lastly, we have on second reading, BL 2024-343, Styles, Coopin, Eastlick, and others, amends Chapter 2.112 of the Metropolitan Code of Law regarding the membership of the Metropolitan National Arts Commission and the process for approving the criteria for awarding funds. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? I didn't hear one. Is there a second? All right, it has been moved and properly seconded. We do have an amendment. Council Lady Allen, you want to move your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had an amendment to clean up the staggering. There's this long, complicated section in there about people who were appointed in 1980 that just seems really irrelevant, that I would like to put on there. I do have some questions about whether we want to go ahead and do this one or maybe defer. My understanding is that there is a larger look at how we're doing boards and commissions and if it should wait behind that before we start making changes to how we add membership to those. I don't know if there's other conversation about that, or if we can get some information on what that study is looking at.
Do we have anyone here that could speak to that study? And then Vice Chair Toombs, I'll recognize you next. Mr. The Honorable Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair Porterfield. We are taking a holistic look at boards and commissions. As many of you are aware, our charter came into being in 1963, and it created a lot of boards and commissions, and some of those have not been touched ever since. And Metro Nashville has changed in its size and needs and approach to things since then, in addition to priorities. In addition, we have a slew of boards and commissions that have been created via code since 1963 and modified via code, as well as executive order and resolution and by state law. And ultimately, we have about 90 boards, commissions, councils, authorities, and other entities that are operating. And a lot of these are the foundation for how Metro government operates. They're the legal entities by which a lot of our departments move forward. So a really great group at the behest of the mayor, and I don't think the vice mayor will mind me saying something that's very much close to her heart, has been put together in order to look at how these boards and commissions operate structurally, and how they're working day to day, how we can better support our boards and commissions and our board members and commissioners, how we can support the departments that work with these. And it's a really exciting effort. It's a big effort. And I think that a lot of good is going to come out of it. One of the things that we also found looking through a lot of the history of this is that a lot of the quirks that we see in boards and commissions come from changes that were made over the years in reaction to something that was occurring at a particular moment in time. And those moments in time came and went, but the code that impacts those boards and commissions continues to exist for decades beyond. And those initial reactions to very real situations kind of put things in an interesting spot. So I appreciate the thought of maybe taking a beat before moving forward with something like this. Thank you.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that, Honorable Rosenberg, can we get could the council get a list of who's serving on that committee to look at the boards?
Sure. Do you want me to send that to you?
I would love if you could.
You got it.
Thank you so much. Vice Chair Toombs, I'm so sorry. Councilmember Allen, did you have a follow-up or would you like me to go to the next person?
Let's go to the next person.
Okay, Councilmember, Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized, followed by Councilmember Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to recommend that we do a one-meeting deferral in light of the work group that's been formed to look holistically at boards and commissions. I don't want to stop conversation, so I can hold that motion to allow other folks to speak.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that, CM Toombs. I actually just wanted to ask a question because I understand, I guess, the intent of this and also understand the idea of like looking at this holistically. With the Arts Commission kind of being in a challenging position related to like the quorum conversation and the number of members that are currently appointed. Do you have any insight as far as where we are with the remaining appointments to get them up to the number that will help them achieve their quorum more consistently?
The Honorable Dave Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Council Member. I think as many of you know, the Arts Commission is currently entitled to 15 members, which means they need 8 members to meet quorum. There are currently 11 members serving on the board and 4 vacancies. We have great candidates we're looking at for the Metro Arts Commission. We're doing extra rounds of vetting, given the desire to be sure that we've got the right people and with how acute the issues around Metro Arts Commission are right now. So we're hoping to bring those for your consideration very soon.
Thank you so very much. Is there any other discussion before I go back to Council Lady Toombs? Then, Council Lady Allen, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am. I'm not sure if we have any sponsors in the room. It's another observation.
Thank you, Council Lady Allen. Councilwoman Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I move for a one-meeting deferral.
Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the one meeting deferral? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of a one meeting deferral say aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? So oh, all right, I wanted to make sure that that was going to come back to this committee, and I just confirmed that that will come back to the committee. So the amendment was not moved, but the bill was passed for a one-meeting deferral with 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. And that concludes our agenda. I just wanted to quickly remind everyone about our upcoming budget community listening sessions. Thank you for everyone that came out to the sessions in Bellevue. I was also able to speak at a town hall in East Nashville, and we also had a session in North Nashville this past weekend. So thank you for everyone that came out. This Saturday, the 25th at 10 a.m., we'll be at the Southeast Community Center, and at 2 p.m., we'll be at the Hermitage Library. I look forward to seeing you all there. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.